Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Continuing with the treatise, Taysiru al-Fiqh, Fiqh Made Easy by Sheikh Salih Sadlan, rahmatullahi alayh. We stopped at the chapter of al-Wasiyyah, the bequest, the testament. So before we go into the different types of wasiyyahs and the Islamic ruling about it, we want to speak about the ta'rif, the wasiyyah. What does it mean? Linguistically, al-wasiyyah, which we translate as a bequest or will, a death will, it is from isal, which you awsa, to yusil, to connect something to another. And this is from the meanings of it linguistically. And هو يتضمن إيصال الأمانات, يعني to connect the trust, the responsibilities to where it deserves to be brought to. So al-wasiyya, linguistically we got the meaning, now we want it technically. هي الأمر بالتصرف بعد الموت. It is a commandment, a testimony of giving you authority to do something or an instruction to do something after death. So a legacy, words that are to be executed or carried out after a person's death. So it's more of recommendations relating to the person, words that are to be remembered after his death. So a lot of times people use wasiyyah, fulfilling responsibilities, giving charity, even recommendations relating to the marriage, future marriage for their daughters, and also advice regarding the washing of their body, and to not to delay, to be quick. Was-salat alayh. This is the origin. A person makes, you give a wasiyyah saying that if I die, do not delay my salat. Be quick to take me to the burial. الأصل في مشروعية الوصية, the basis of why it's recognized legally in Islam, is the Kitab, the Sunnah, and Ijma'. Statement of Allah, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتُ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةُ. So this ayah in verse 180 of Surah Al-Baqarah, that initially it was wajib, that if one person deceases, to give a wasiyyah. And this became abrogated, no longer to give a wasiyyah to the parents. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم ما حق امرئ مسلم له شيء يوصي به يبيت ليلتين إلا ووصيته مكتوبة. And some of the wordings. Hadith in Bukhari, Muslim. The right of a Muslim is that he doesn't spend 2 nights except that his death will is written and at his presence. Some of them would even have their death will underneath their bed. And this has so much importance. He doesn't know where death will surprise him. They even mention a story of an individual that he kept delaying writing his death will and said he wants to give some of his land in charity for waqf, as an endowment for a certain cause, and he wants to give a third of his land. But he didn't really take the time out from his busy schedule to make the wasiyah. And as a result, he passed away, and then when his children were reminded about his wasiyah, because they didn't see anything written, they didn't carry it out. As a lot of times when people have their shares or inheritance and it becomes their wealth, there then greed appears, and it's not easy to just give out a piece of land after that. So it's better to do it while you're alive and not leave it to your inheritors to do it on your behalf. And they mentioned the one who doesn't take care of himself when he's alive, don't expect for your family to take care of you with greater concern after you pass away. Meaning in terms of wasiyah. طيب تنعقد الوصية شرعا بأحد طرق ثلاثة. And so he says that a bequest can be made in one of the three ways. Number one, by speech, verbally uttering it. Number two, by recording it, jotting it down. Number three, by it being understood through a signal, a subliminal message that is clear. So it can be al-ishara al-mufhima or al-kitaba. And in all three scenarios, they advise to do al-ishhad al-wasiyah, to have witnesses. If you write down a testament or a death will, a legacy to be remembered, have it in a scenario where it could be attested to by others. And have it. And if these kuffar have these life insurances where everything is documented, how this is going to be spent, my ornaments, and if this doesn't work out, then this is the alternative. Everything's written. We Muslims are more deserving of that. We Muslims, نحن أحق بذلك منهم. طيب, let's go on. Number one, by speech. There's no disagreement among the jurists that a bequest can be made by explicit speech, such as a person saying that I make a bequest to so-and-so. It can be done by implicit speech if it's understood by the context to refer to a bequest, such as saying I make such and such for so and so after my death. Or bear witness that I have made a wasiyah of such and such to so and so. Number two, a bequest may be through writing if it's from a person who is not capable of speaking. Number three, and even if a person is able to speak, you can do a bequest with kitaba, recording it, jotting it down. يقوم مقام الكلام. It stands as a position of speech. So you don't have to verbalize it. You can even just write it down. A bequest may also be made by understood signaling if the person is mute or is not able to speak, like even hand gestures, hand language, to speak for some reason. However, this is conditional upon the fact that the person is not able to speak. So they say you won't resort to that, except if you're not able. Like, and they give the proof for that. A person, when he's in salat, he can't talk. So what does he do? He does ishara. He does hand gestures, and he replies with hand gestures, ashara. Bring us a hadith. The Prophet ﷺ was in salat, and someone gave him salams, and he responded with a hand gesture. And this is where they take from it. If you're not able to speak, then respond with hand gesture. Sometimes if there's food in your mouth and you can't respond back to the salams, some scholars permit hand gestures, even though they say that is the way of the Jews and the Christians to just give salams through hand gestures without uttering anything. Like they say, if you're far away from the person and he can't hear you, what would you do when you're giving salams? You would do a hand gesture alongside trying to utter if he could hear you. But a lot of times just waving and so forth stands in that position. Like a person who is mute, he can't speak, or a person that, or he can't hear, or what may he be scenario. These type of people, there's alternatives. Same thing with people in certain circumstances. طيب كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي في بيتي والباب عليه مغلق فجئت فاستفتحت فمشى حتى فتح لي ثم رجع إلى مصلاه وذكر أن الأبواب كانت في القبلة. Also hadith Suhaib مررت برسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ويصلي فسلمت عليه فرد عليه إشارة. Suhaib said, I passed by the Prophet while he was praying and I gave him salams. He replied back to me with a hand gesture. So if someone's far away, for example, he's across the street, you don't have to yell. You can just do a hand gesture and wave. But if you were to wave when he's close proximity, then it resembles the Jews and Christian if you don't utter anything. But if you combine between sound and hand gesture, there's no problem from close proximity. There's some beautiful speech by Ibn Taymiyyah in Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim, maybe we can read that as well, where he speaks about this topic. So going back to a person with hand language, it can be taken from him if he doesn't have that capability to speak. Next one, the types of bequest and its legal status. The legal status of a wasiyah. Al-wasiyah is both legislated and recommended, as Allah has said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا شَهَادَةُ بَيْنِكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتُ حين الوصية اثنان ذوى عدل منكم أو آخران من غيركم. O you believe, when death approach any of you, take witnesses among yourselves when making bequests, two just men of your own brotherhood. And this shows you the testimony, having witnesses when doing a bequest. Gather your family, make it an important gathering. Or others from outside, if you are journeying through the earth, and the chance of death befalls you. طيب. So let's go to the first type of wasiyah. Al-wasiyah al-wajiba. There's a bequest, a type of testament that the deceased leaves behind, which is wajib. Not everyone has to do this, but people that have liabilities, responsibilities, or certain things Islamically of advice that they have to give, and or else due to their shortcomings, certain wrong may occur. That becomes wasiyah wajibah. And this is not the speech. It's more about, he's saying just waving is an imitation of the Jews or the Christian alone when capable of speaking. طيب الوصية الواجبة كون على من عليه دين وفي ذمة حقوق ولديه أمانات وعهد فإنه يجب عليه أن يوضح ذلك كله بالكتابة الواضحة الجلية. The obligatory bequest, this is a bequest upon a person who's in debt or has some rights against him or some trusts or pacts that he must fulfill. It is obligatory upon him to make such matters clear by writing a definitive, explicit will that basically fulfills the debts and states whether it's to be paid right away, immediately, or over time. Installments, for example. It should also state what trust or pacts he must fulfill so that the matter can be clear. We'll give examples of a will, how a person can write it. For his inheritors, when they take care of his responsibilities that he has put them, his distribution, in charge of. There's a recommended desirable bequest. This is where one bequests up to 1/3 of his wealth to persons other than his rightful inheritors. This distribution is recommended and can be given to charitable causes and other righteous outlets, regardless of whether it be to a specific relative, a non-relative, or specific causes, such as a specific mosque, or general purposes, such as for the sake of mosques, schools, libraries, refugees, clinics, and so on. We're going to keep reading, brothers, just to make the time, and then we will summarize, inshallah. The amount of a bequest is not allowed for the bequest to be more than 1/3 of one's wealth. And then we'll give practical examples of how to write a will in our time. This point is based on the Prophet's statement to Sa'ad. When Sa'ad said, "Can I give all of my wealth away in a bequest?" The Prophet replied, "No." He then asked, "How about 1/2?" The Prophet said, "No." Then he said, "How about 1/3?" He replied, 1/3 is permissible, but 1/3 is still much. It's not permitted to make a bequest for a rightful, but they say if you don't have inheritors, like a person, he passed away, he has no one to inherit him, no family members. Does he still have to give 1/3 of a wasiyah? They said no, he can give a wasiyah of all of his wealth. This person passed away, even. Also, if he has just one inheritor, some have said if that person is okay with it, he can make it more than 1/3. As long as the inheritors are okay with it, he can make it more. And also, can you give a bequest to an inheritor if he's just him alone? Some said it's permissible if he's the only warith. Like after he gets his share of inheritance, you say the rest of the money is for my son. And some scholars have permitted this and some have not, upon the origin. From what I recall, it is not permitted to make a bequest for a rightful inheritor or to make a bequest beyond 1/3 of one's wealth unless it's done by the permission of the other rightful inheritors. And they use a hadith, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ أَعْطَى كُلَّ ذِي حَقٍّ حَقَّهُ فَلَا وَصِيَّ لِلْوَارِثِ. Allah has given every person his due share. So there's no testaments of a death will that is specified for an inheritor. He already has a share. What is taken into consideration for the bequest to be valid? It must be something fair and just. It must be in accordance with what Allah has legislated through His Prophet, peace be upon him. So anything that is not just, it's oppressive, or some people, they're harming their inheritors, or they're harming certain things, like he purposely does so, or he opposes the book of Allah, he makes a bequest of something haram. They say these are not valid ones. The one making the bequest must do his deed purely for the sake of Allah. Tayyib, mashallah. Has to be with a sincere intention for the sake of Allah. And desire by his bequest the doing of righteous deeds and goodness. Tayyib, next one, conditions of a bequest. There are 3 factors or agents in a bequest. And basically pillars. The one making the bequest, the one for whom the bequest is made. So there's Musi, the one making this legal document of what he wants to leave as a testament known for him after his death. Then there is the Musa bihi, the one for whom the bequest is made. And then the object of the bequest, the Musa, which one of these has specific conditions that it must meet. The following notes the most important of such conditions. Conditions for the one making the bequest: he must be one who's qualified to make donations. Yani meaning, it comes in taraka khayran. In taraka khayran al-wasiyya, Allah says. So they said he has to leave khayran, meaning malan kathiran. If he's doing wasiyya and he has little wealth, we said, no, brother. Your wealth, you have to leave it for your family. They need every penny. They need everything they can get. As the Prophet said to Sa'ad, يعني إن تركت يعني ورثتك أغنياء خير من أن تتركهم عالة يتكففون الناس. If you were to leave them rich, it's better than you to leave them in a state of need. Some say, I want to help this mosque. No, you have little money. You need to help out your family. So the person, only if he has extra wealth, then he would do that. Tayyib must be the owner of the property that he's giving a bequest. He must make the bequest out of his own free will and choice. MashaAllah. So these are what they mention. Conditions for whom the bequest is made: he must be a recipient for the sake of goodness or what is permissible. 2, the one for whom the bequest is made must be existing in reality or theoretically, such as the child in the mother's womb. At the time of the bequest, it's not valid to make a bequest for someone who does not exist. And even some are against that. We'll speak about that, giving a wasiyah about. He said, this wasiyah is for this baby that has not yet been born. In the stomach, that this wealth is going, if I die, the baby is going to get it. Some of them are against that, and some of them say if it actually exists and the soul has been blown, then it's a nafs, it's a soul. Tayyib, it must be a specified person. It must be the one who has the legal capability to own. It cannot be, like for example, the killer of the one making the bequest, meaning if there's accusations of that. Tayyib, and it cannot be a person who gets inheritance. Conditions for what is being bequest of what is being put forward as a testament. It must be wealth that could be inherited. MashaAllah. And if something cannot be yurith, and for example, a waqf, an endowment, you can't give a wasiyah of that. The wealth that is used for wasiyah must be something of value according to Islamic law. It must be something that can be owned, even if it does not actually exist by the time the bequest is made. And even though it's going to exist later on, it must be part of the one making the bequest property at the time of the bequest. And what is given of a wasiyah must not be sinful or forbidden according to Islamic law. Tayyib, confirming a bequest, there's an agreement that it's best to record. So here is basically Ithbat al-Wasiyah. Sometimes people have a timeline they can continue updating and adding on, erasing, changing. But when you finalize, you're like, basically, this is my last, the other one's rough draft. This is the final copy. And you make it like a finalized document of it. There is agreement that it's best to record the wasiyah starting with the name of Allah, followed by praises to Allah, then prayers and blessings upon the Prophet. Then the witnesses should make it known either by writing or speech. The types of executors, those who ينفذ الوصية. Because when the wasiyah is made, if someone comes and tries to change it, فمن بدله من بعد ما سمعه فإنما اسمه الذين يبدلونه. And another ayah of من بعد ما جاءته فإن الله شديد العقاب. Remind us of that, that whoever changes the wasiyah after it has come to him, then Allah is severe in torment. So it has to be executed as has been brought out. The executors may be one of the three categories: a ruler, a judge. Number three, any chosen one from among the Muslim individuals. So usually it's a qadi, person of authority, arbitrator for certain things, imam of a masjid, and even the legal authorities, or someone that is chosen amongst the Muslims. And sometimes just the inheritors, the family alone. Nullifiers of the bequest. But it's usually good to give it to someone who's recognized in the community. So later on, if there's any disputes, that imam or someone who's like an outside party of the family comes out and carries out. The nullifiers of the wasiyah. The following acts nullify the wasiyah. Number one, the person basically going back, الرجوع عن الوصية بالتصريح أو الدلالة. So he goes back on. He says, خلاص, I haven't yet passed away. I take this wasiyah back. خلاص, it becomes nullified. The bequest was made conditional upon an act that did not occur. خلاص, it's suspended. It was only connected to that. If this happens, then this is the wasiyah for so-and-so. Number three, the thing that was given a wasiyah for does not exist. Some say, like if a person says, I make a wasiyah for this masjid, if I pass away, that my books go to that masjid. And then by the time he passed away, the masjid was taken down and it was no longer exist. Khalas, what happens? Some of those scholars say, Khalas, his wasiyah is now null and void, it doesn't count anymore. And other scholars, such as the Malikiyah, we're going to read the statement, they say, no, it's to be distributed to a similar like of that cause. So you can take his books and distribute it probably down the street to another masjid of similar of his like. Tayyib, that's what some have mentioned. Number four, the one making the bequest becomes no longer legally capable. Tayyib. I'll give an example, like he was free and then he became a slave or something like that. According to some scholars, the one making the request apostates from Islam, for example. So they say if he becomes a disbeliever, his wasiyah doesn't count anymore. In terms of Islam, the one for whom the bequest was made rejects the bequest. You give a wasiyah to someone and he rejects your wasiyah. These books are for so-and-so if I die. He says, I don't want your books, he passed away. Or he says, I don't want your books. It doesn't count. Tayyib, the one to specifically receive the bequest dies before the one making the bequest dies. SubhanAllah, it happens a lot, brothers. This is from how amazing it is. Sometimes a person making a bequest for someone young, that when I pass away, so-and-so, like he's going to, for sure, he's going to live longer than me. And then that child or that person, a young man, ends up dying before the person making the testament. Tayyib, the property that is under wasiyah, brothers, if it's destroyed or its rightful owners appear, khalas, if there's a dispute. Tayyib, another part, if the wasiyah is voided, if it is for a rightful inheritor and not approved by the other inheritors, yes, as well. Like for example, there's a wasiyah for a person who already inherits, and the others are not okay with that. it's not to be accepted. طيب, so now we're taking up that chapter. Let's quickly summarize, inshallah. We want to understand how to write a will. Each one of us, it relates to us. The topic of writing a will. And they say either you're single, married. So each person should have his death will written. It's not only confined to the people that have an illness that is expected from them to pass away from. And some people think that that's the only time you write a will. حتى إذا بلغت يعني الحلقوم كان لفلان ولفلان. That's not what you're supposed to do. And you shouldn't reach away till the soul comes close to the throat and say, so and so is supposed to get this, so and so is supposed to get that. They even mentioned the story of an individual. He had certain things that he wanted to do a wasiyah, but he wasn't even able to say and speak right before passing away because of his illness. So he was trying to tell his family members, but he wasn't able. طيب, side benefits. Paying off debts have precedence. The deceased debts has precedence before fulfilling his will. Is that clear? من بعد وصية أو دين. Even though Allah mentioned wasiyah before dain, the debt, but the reason why Allah mentioned wasiyah first, because of giving importance to it, not that it has precedence. A lot of people give importance to paying the debts off and they forget the wasiyahs. So you always hear the janazas, does he have any debts? But a lot of times people forget, does he have any wasiyah that he left behind that could be carried out and deducted from his wealth before distributing it to the inheritors? طيب. So some of the people, they categorize the people regarding Islamic wills of wasiyah into the following. Al-Musi, the person making the testament or the will. Al-Wasi, the executor. And Al-Musa, you can say Al-Musala, the person that is being given to the wasiyah that's made for on his behalf. And also the Musa bihi, the property or the thing that's being talked about. And it comes to hadith, it's not permissible for any Muslim who has something to will or a legacy to stay for 2 nights without having his will and testament written and kept ready with him, as you read. And when does it become wajib? If you have legal responsibilities and liabilities, or else it's just recommended. And it's not wajib, you're not in sin. So Shaykh bin Baz says you could write the wasiyah like the following. Ana fulan ibn fulan. But they always say you should start with the basmala, praising Allah, sending salat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then going on by saying the following. Ana fulan ibn fulan. I'm so-and-so ibn so-and-so. أوصي بأنني أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. Because this is the best of testimony that you're giving. The shahadatu an la ilaha illallah. This is a testimony a person does. And that's why a lot of people say that you should start off in your first of your testimonies, your words, is wasiyatullah lil awwaleen wal akhirin. The recommendation Allah gives for the first of the nation, the last of the nation. وَلَقَدْ وَصَّيْنَا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ أَنِ اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. That's the best, brothers. طيب, after that, أوصي من تركت من أهلي وذريتي. وَسَائِرْ أَقَارِبِي بِتَقْوَى اللَّهِ وَإِصْلَاحِ ذَاتِ الْبَيْنِ. How can we mention that? Instructs his family members, always obedience. Because the last of your words are usually remembered. كَأَنَّهَا وَصِيَّةُ مُوَدِّعٍ. It's like a person bidding the people farewell. Like the Prophet one time he gave a wasiyah, and the Sahaba says, as if he's bidding us farewell of words of a legacy. And usually, siblings and family members, they have a tendency to remember the parents' last words more and take it, and they're inspired by it. And they've taken this from the tradition of Yaqub and also Ibrahim. يا بني إن الله اصطفى لكم الدين فلا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Because يعني حضر يعقوب الموت, يعني he came. He was on his deathbed basically, and he was giving a legacy upon Islam. They took him from here. Then after that, after he does that, about Islam, Tawheed and Sunnah and adherence to obedience, he instructs what he wants of his wealth, of a third or that which is less. So for charitable projects. But they say if you have responsibilities of debts, you should start that off before the charitable ones. So right after you say, advise you with taqwa Allah and tawheed, you start off with saying, I owe this liability, and this asset belongs to so-and-so, and this property, I'm partners with so-and-so, and percentage of it belongs to me, and the other belongs to him. All of these liabilities and clarifications, you will start off with that, then the charitable ones. Because basically, what has precedence is the wajib one over the mustahab one. Some say that if his debts are already recorded somewhere else and they have his places, he doesn't have to really mention it in his wasiyah. Because that is like a wasiyah. Like a person, if he has his debts already recorded somewhere, or they are going to basically through the different channels, through these different outlets, it's already, some have said it is not wajib on you because it's already documented and affirmed, and even reach your family members of what you owe. Some have said that, and some said it's still better. Like Sheikh Ma says, إذا كانت عليه ديون أو حقوق ليس عليها وثائق تثبتها لأهلها وجب عليه أن يوصي بها حتى لا تضيع حقوق الناس. And if he doesn't have anything to affirm it, then he has to make wuju. And he should have 2 witnesses. And so a lot of people, they need to go to a local imam to proofread their wasiyah. A lot of people make mistakes. And also to go through a lawyer, seek legal advice, if it will be recognized amongst the city or the provincial government. These things are important. Some people, the way they do wasiyah, they add the following. Like some of the Sahabas, they made wasiyah for some of the Sahabas to lead them in Salat. I believe it was Abu Bakr Siddiq, he recommended that Abu Umar lead him in Salat. And different Sahabas, they mentioned, I would say, they wrote in there specifically, if I die, I want so-and-so to lead my Salat al-Janazah. And even some of them, they give wasiyah a lot of the times for my family not to wail over me. A lot of them, they do that. And give a reminder of qadr. Those words can help at that time. There's some different types of wasiyah. Wasiyah which is, they call it, it's suspended, as we mentioned, to something. It's like mu'allaqa. If this and this happens, then this person gets this bequest. And sometimes it's mutlaqa, it's unrestricted wasiyah. And there's one mudafa, it's connected to something else. So there's different types. In some Muslim countries, the moment there's like a niza, a dispute, a lot of the times if it gets out of control, the judge just nullifies it in some Muslim countries. It gets too out of control. Some scholars, as we mentioned, they make an exception to giving wasiyah to an inheritor if there's something specific to him, like the son of the family, out of all the sons, he works on the business more. So you're going to give a specific testament to him. This person, I want him to run my business. I want this individual to run my business because he worked hard on it when he was alive and helped me. Shaykh Al-Bani says no. Even if he was someone that was your substitute when you're alive, because there's other inheritors. They all should be equal. And some scholars say if there's a legal reason or something indicating that is allowed, what's safer is to try to keep them all the same. And we've got questions like that before. We're going to speak about another topic. We'll also give example of the masjid, the Istiqama's wasiyah, brothers. The masjid, Istiqama wasiyah, Brother Faisal put it out well and written, inshallah. They give examples of people that you can give a wasiyah to. The following: relatives that don't get a share inheritance, an adopted child, stepchildren, step-parents, foster parents, non-Muslim family members, non-relatives, or any organization, institute, or masjid. These are the people that you can give wasiyah to. Here, we want to quickly read the Istiqama testimony, just give you an example. So the last will and testament, you write your name, full name, the date, the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. I, being of sound mind and memory, do hereby revoke any and all formal wills made by me. You have to do that. Everything that occurred before is all cancelled out. This is the final. And do make, ordain, and publish, and declare this my last will and testament. You have to make that clear. Then after that, I testify that there's no deity worthy of worship of Allah. To the end of it, I advise my family, offspring, and relatives after me to fear Allah. Mentioned the ayat. I ask you all, when news of my death reaches you, to supplicate to Allah to forgive me and have mercy on me. I'd also advise you to follow the sunnah regarding the whole janazah and the etiquettes of it. Lastly, I ask you to honor this document which I've made and not to obstruct it and change it in any way. Like this is a good way. And then each page should have its initials, especially for the Canadian government. I ordain that no what do you call it? When they basically play around with your body and examine it, autopsies, and these type of things be done on my body unless required by law. If it is required by law, then I wish that this occurs through MRI scan without damaging the body. I ordain without unjustified delay that my body be washed, wrapped with cloth free of any ornaments and other articles, prayed for, then buried. All of this should be done by Muslims in complete accordance with Islamic legislation, Sharia. I hereby instruct those who execute my will, surviving relatives and friends, to perform these and other necessary provisions for my Islamic funeral and burial. And then you write who's going to be executor and your guardian. I nominate residing at and this executor of this, my last will, initials again. I give my executor herein named power to settle any claim for or against my any assets and estates or property or power to sell any property, personal, real, or mixed, in which I have interest without court order, without bond. I direct no bond or surety for any bond to be required for my executor in the performance of his or her duties. On nominees residing, so forth. Then he says, I direct after that, start my debts, including such expenses incurred by my last illness and burial as well. That is included too, but your janazah, it's part of your debts. If you have money, people usually, your family pay for it. If not, then it's included. I direct that all inheritance and all these taxes and things be paid out and charged generally against the principal of whatever he leaves behind of wealth. Then you put it forward, the transfers and things that are liabilities or things that you want to give in charity, write it down, percentage, how much. And all of this is written, so a person could use this. It's a bit complicated. Some of the wordings, it's not local friendly, and especially for the elders. I'm going to ask Brother Faisal to reword it, to make it more easier. Because it's a lot of people that try to use the Al-Istiqama's template, they found it difficult. It's about 9 pages, brothers. And these people just want a basic one. And I'll show you a basic one that is very simple, mashallah. Because it's with the legal, I asked certain banks and so forth, and showed them the testament. Some of them accepted it. Some of them had certain issues. There's the biggest one is with the spouse. The spouse could always override it, even if you put certain initials and sign. Your wife could always override your testament. No shadow of doubt. Allah Akbar, brothers. That's in the Western countries. طيب. MashaAllah. In Yemen, it's just 1 page, the wasiyah. Very easy. And this is it. MashaAllah. طيب. Let's add something, inshallah. Here, and then we'll conclude. الشيخ صالح السدلان also, he has a book called أحكام الوقف والوصية والفرق بينهما, separate treaties. And this scholar is known to be a real faqih. This is his chapters, specialized in these topics. Read here some of his speech, inshallah. Because a lot of people, they don't know the difference between endowment and so forth. There's slight differences, as we read. I remember some of the brothers that were killed by the Houthis, I think nights before their death, they wrote the wasiyah. Just literally nights. One brother is as if he knew he was going to die. And he wrote his wasiyah, and he kept giving admonition to his family. And nice words, heart-touching words. But I think that was the last time I seen the brother, it was just a day before. And he had his wasiyah written with him in his pocket. They found his body, and he had his wasiyah there written as if he knew. And he was writing it as if he was speaking about something soon to occur. Yeah, so try to make this your habit, brothers. طيب, we're going to stop with this and we're going to move on to, inshallah, the next book. Barakallahu feekum. Any questions as we're preparing? Got a question? تفضل. Yeah, we're going to make it a little bit more simplified, inshallah. What was the reason how the wife can change? Legally, you know the rule?